what are my goals? What am I trying to achieve with the company, with the project I'm doing? But before I ask, so start thinking about that, but can you imagine, what do you think are the issues there? Why have I put that? Why am I saying this is something we need to think about? And I think it can often be a problem for people. So sometimes we can disagree about the goals. And what happens, I mean, we've got founding teams, and many of you are working with other people as you're founding your company. You know, what's it like if you discover that your goals, you realize we've got different objectives or goals? Or we started together, but now we seem to be going like that. Have you maybe had a bit of that experience, or you can imagine what that's like? Yeah? Or we discover that our goals are just unrealistic. We didn't know enough, and now we realize that's going to be really hard to do. What I find is, often people, when they're trying to grow, which is great, I mean, I think it's great to scale and grow, but I say, why are you trying to grow? Now, it sounds obvious, but I don't think it is. I think it's a really interesting question. Why are we doing this, right? And what's going to measure the success? And so, now I'm not saying you have to put a clear number on that, but what does that mean? You know? Does that mean I want to be in 10 major markets within 5 years? Right? Or I want to be selling so much, I don't want to be doing some sort of dollar figure in the US by some date, right? Or I just have that general sense in my mind about where I think, why I'm growing and where I want to be. Now, it doesn't have to be a fixed number. But I think it's interesting that I have found that it's what I have observed with many companies and entrepreneurs as they're growing is that it's a little bit of a balance between the taking the chances when they emerge and the opportunities as they arise, which is great. Like suddenly there's a chance to enter a new market. Let's go. But on the other hand, right, have I got a strategy, and is that opportunity going to be positive or not? Should I say yes or no? Probably yes, but I've got to think about that. What I find is that at least having a degree of some sort of sense about where you want to go and why is important. By the way, all of these slides will be available later. So it'll be part, and there's a video as well. So all of this can be later. And then I think an important question for founders and for people who are growing a company is what do I really want to achieve? So this is where I do want you to think about it. This is my first question for you, individually, and then what am I really trying to achieve as I grow this company? What are my goals? What do I want to achieve? So I ask you to just think about that, just for a minute, or 30 seconds. And then, so please, just dwell on that. What am I, one or two, what am I trying to really achieve? And that's your big goal, the big goal for what I'm doing. And what I think would be, we're just going to experiment here. We'll see what I think might be good is if maybe those of you who are like, we've got a few groups of people together, are you happy just to talk to each other for a minute or two about that? Is that okay? Yeah? So maybe we can just talk to each other for a minute or two about our goals for what we're doing. Okay? And then we'll have a general conversation. Okay, so please talk to each other about What are your big goals for your company for growth? So, what kinds of things have you been talking about, just in general terms, in very general terms? What sorts of goals are we talking about? I heard some people talking about growth goals with specific metrics on market share or customers, right? Yeah, so that's great for a growth goal. I want to reach this and this in terms of metrics, numbers of customers, revenues, any other sorts of goals. Technical goals, right. We've got to build systems. Yes, growth. Yeah, so there's another goal. I've got sort of operational technical goals. I've got to put in place this, I've got to do. Other people talking about similar sorts of things? A bit?
Some management.
Management goals. Yeah? Developing. Any other sorts of general goals people are thinking about?
Monetization goals.
Monetization, and that goes to do with what we call your business model. How am I actually going to earn the revenue now off what I'm doing? Okay, so these are great goals. This is great. I agree. There's something I want to raise with you, a big issue, and this is actually something that's been, a lot of research has been done by someone I know. He used to be a professor at Harvard Business School. It's another good school, you might have heard of it. And it's the concept of rich versus king. Has anybody heard that before? All right. Rich is my goal, my big goal at the end of all this is to really become very wealthy. I want to become rich. Is that okay? Sure. Sure. Right? Some of you probably have that goal. Great. I hope it happens for you, right? And you might say, look, that's my big goal. That's my where I go. Great. Other people might say, I want to be the king or the queen, which is, I want to run the company, lead the company, build the company. I really, really want to have a great company, and I want it to be mine. And you probably feel that too. Yeah? So there's another big goal. One big goal is, I want to become very wealthy. Great. Another big goal is, I want my own company which I can grow and lead and feel fulfilled in building a great company. Yeah? The research shows that it's hard to do both. Or at least to really maximize both. Most of the time, you have to make a choice. Or at least understand that there's a tension, a potential conflict between those two goals. What we find is that, and there's been a lot of research, and most of this research is true, it's true, most of this research is done in countries like the United States and Europe. And of course, you are in a different environment. Not very, but it's a different world, I understand. But this research shows that this is control. How much control do you want to have? Do you want to complete control? I want it to be my company. Or do you have not much control? Why would you lose control a little bit? How would you lose control?
Investors, partners.
Investors, partners, right, joint ventures. Okay. Because when you take on investors or partners or joint ventures, inevitably or probably they're going to end up having quite a lot of control over decisions, over what. But if you get investors and joint ventures and partners, you might be losing control, but what are you potentially gaining? Growth. Money, resources, access to markets, partnerships, market entry, growth. So you can see You've sort of lost some control, but you've probably gained growth. You're not king anymore, but you're getting rich. And this is what the research shows, that you might lose control, but you're probably getting more rich because the company's growing. If you keep control, you may not become as rich because you may not have the investors, you may not have the partners, you may not have the joint, because you wanted to keep control. A lot of research on this. I raise it to you because what the research also tells us that most founders and people who are growing their companies, a lot of people don't really see this. They don't know that this is happening. They go and they talk to an investor, and the investor offers to give money. And they say, oh, great, now I've got more money. And then it's only about a year or two later that they realize they've also lost control. And sometimes the founders regret that. They think, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. So I think it's a big choice to make in terms of how I want to grow and what do I really want to achieve. Is my main goal to be rich? I'll sell the company and then I'll go and do another one, or I'll go and buy the house or the yacht or whatever you want to do. I want to become rich. Or I want to build and own a company for a long time and I want it to be mine. And they're both great goals. And so I encourage you to think about it. What do you really want to achieve in terms of the growth of your company for the future? It's a nice problem to have, a choice between, being rich and being king. But it is a choice, often. So I encourage you to think about that, because experience shows us that a lot of founders, they just take the opportunity, take whatever happens, without realizing that there can be big consequences for what your personal benefit and experience is going to be. Yeah? So that's an interesting challenge, I think, to at least have a pretty clear sense about what you personally really want to achieve out of your growth activity.